Hey there, hunting family. It's me, the Arrow Eagle, and I'm checking in from hunting camp, bringing you an update about our archery season as we are wrapping things up here. It's early November. We've been seeing some rut activity, and we're going to be sharing some stories this episode from the boys at camp. Over the past 2 weeks, pretty much the entire month of November, give or take 1 or 2 days, we've been at camp and we've been hunting hard. We've got stories to share. Seeing some rut activity. Want to tell you a tale about one buck that got away, and we want to tell you a tale about another buck that did not. And we're going to be swapping stories and telling some lies, and we're really glad that you're tuning in. So we hope this is an entertaining episode for you. Stay tuned. We're going to get right at it. We're going to get started on our next episode of Tracks and Tackle. We're going to be doing a hunt and recap. We got Hollywood Horse, and I don't know how we're going to refer to you on this.
I've been called all kind of stuff in my life.
All right,
It doesn't matter.
we got my brother and my nephew here with us. We've been spent the last 3 weeks hunting real hard in November up at the deer camp. And today's the last day of deer camp. We're going to be actually doing a little morning hunt tomorrow, but we're going to be packing up and calling the archery season for what it is. And we'll be back up in rifle season here in a couple weeks after the holidays. But I want to just take a couple minutes and get a good recap in. Everybody's seen different deer. We've done pre-rut hunting, and we've seen a little bit of the rut. But why don't we start with you? Brady, and maybe even before we get into the telling about deer hunting and stuff. I know you just filled the logbook out. We keep a logbook at the cabin, but there's nothing in there about the gas spill on the ride up to camp.
Yeah, so lesson learned, if you're going to pack your bags, don't put them in the bed of the truck, put them on the inside. Because we were fueling up the generator, and I don't know what happened, but long story short, there's gas on the bed of the truck when we got up here, and my hunting backpack with all my gear and stuff in it is soaked, and the duffel bag had some smell to it, so as soon as we got here, I blasted everything with scent killer and had it hanging. I blasted it again in the morning. But what
didn't do anything.
It served well, but the stuff I didn't blast, you could definitely tell. My hunting bag, we got up here on Tuesday. My hunting bags are still out sitting on the deck, and when it rained a day or two.
It's like a week later from when we arrived, and all his clothing and bags and everything sitting outside. And it was just a bad way to start the hunt, but didn't phase you at all. You got out. You hunted really hard.
You need Dawn and water and some elbow grease. It takes the oil off baby ducks.
Yes.
It should get the gas out of your hunting clothes.
Well, it was raining the other day when we were out tracking a blood trail, and I got this text from him, and it said, "Hey, will you put my clothing in the camp?" And I didn't reply because there's no way I was bringing those gasoline-smelling clothing and bags inside the cabin. So that's how we started. We started the week with Brady. He was out of clothing, and luckily his hunting clothing was all right. It's just all his stuff that he had to wear, his civilian clothing.
Yeah, fresh underwear and fresh socks. They were scented.
Yeah, all the things that matter, right? So why don't you just give us a quick breakdown, not just of this week, but November. You've been hunting really, really hard. You've been hitting almost every day.
Tired, man. I'm tired. Been putting the hours in, getting up early. I mean, you've seen it here the past few days at camp, getting tired and going to bed early, taking a nap when we got our Western or whatever we're watching. But yeah, it's been hit or miss. Like, I'm seeing a good amount of deer. Like, if I could see a deer every day, I'd be happy, but it doesn't always line up like that. I'll see no deer for 3 days, and then on that fourth day, I'll see 4 deer. So they're just kind of in groups and spurts. But
for we've been up here the last 3 weeks, you and I.
Yeah.
And then we'll go home for few days and then come back up. But you've been keeping a really good eye on the weather, and we've seen a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how would you describe the hunting like late November, or I'm sorry, late October into November? How's the weather been?
Definitely cooling down. I mean, it's been all over the place here in Pennsylvania. You never know what you're going to get. But yeah, one day we were up here, it was 24, and 2 days later it was 70s, and we were in tank tops on the top with the breeze blowing. But yeah, just hunting the weather, knowing the cold front was coming in, we were fired up about that, and uh, seeing a little bit of rut activity. So a lot of late sits, but they've been rewarding whenever you see a deer. So just putting the hours in and uh, having some success and just seeing deer.
Yeah, we've had some successes, we've had some failures.
Some heartbreaks.
I know that there's been some mouse hunting in the cabin. So, Lon, why don't you? This started last week when we had everybody up at camp, but Lon was.
Let's go to our mouse expert.
It's, we're gonna throw it over to the mouse expert in the family, because you were shaking the one recliner and Jerry ran out from underneath it.
Yep, 1.47 ounces is what he weighed. And we hunted for 4 days, and I give the crew a hard time about dropping too many crumbs on the floor because it was 2.98 ounces when we left after 4 days.
Every time we saw the mouse, it was somebody would say, "That looks like it weighs a little bit more than it did last time we saw it."
It gained about an ounce and a half, roundabout, in the 4 days we were up.
And you brought up stuff this trip to handle the mice, but we took
Yeah, but
matters
I
into our
heard
own
about
hands.
beer can traps and fly swatters, and we hadn't had to break out the mouse traps and peanut butter yet.
Yeah, so I get in from a morning hunt, or it might have been like, no, I got up from the morning and this beer can's like moving around like Toy Story, how they move the cans. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, is there a moth or something in there? And I look down in, there's a small mouse. So we caught him, and then pretty sure it's the same day. I'm sitting up in my stand. Ronnie was doing some tracking here, and then I just get a text, and it's a video of this mouse twitching on the countertop. And the moral of the story was, he's the apex predator, and he used a fly swatter and karate chopped it.
One mouse, one kill.
Yep, another one for the meat pole.
So we got killing in our blood, and it's been a crazy wild week. But yeah, we had all the guys, everybody except for one family members was up last week with us, and I can probably edit in some of their comments and commentary we got from the rest of the team. But this week it's been sparse. It's just a few of us, but we hit it hard. And Lon, you were up early in the week, and then you actually went home for a day or two to take care of some business.
Yep.
And you're back up here with us for the weekend and finish strong. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how your week went? Because I want to get into in this episode. I want to talk about the bucks that got away and the bucks that didn't, and the does that got away and the does that didn't.
Well, I got up to my tree stand. Guess I got up here probably about 9, 10 o'clock, and ran up to my tree stand after getting Pep squared away. Got into my stand. It's probably only 150 yards away from camp, but it's straight uphill. So it's hard for a fat man, fat Indian, whatever you want to call me, to climb Mount Rushmore and not break a sweat. So got up to my stand, got up in it, started getting stuff situated, started cooling down just a tiny bit, and it was time to put that next layer on so I could stay warm for the next 2 hours. And a doe come running in off the ridge and bedded down 40 yards from the stand in a thicket that is close there. And she stayed there for probably 5.5 hours. It was 68 degrees, 66 degrees.
It was warm.
But I was freezing because I was still in my t-shirt that I walked up in, breeze blowing,
Thermal cutoff.
Tried to
famous thermal cutoff that
get
he
the
wears.
Tacticam to get a little footage for video, and for some reason it didn't work. dead battery, bad chip, whatever. But I'm glad that it didn't work because you'd have thought it was a Boone and Crockett buck the way I was shaking from being chilled. Just one of them days.
All right, time out on the story. Because what was really, really interesting about that was the same day that the Hollywood horse had those doe come through, and there's no buck behind them. And then shortly thereafter, this rack monster that we've been watching all summer long steps out. I don't think he was the hammer, but he was definitely one of the Trace Migos that we've been watching run the hill.
Definitely one of the big three.
And that won't you share play by play on that what that happened, because later in the afternoon I actually walked out to check with you, having no idea about this doe that was bedded down keeping Lon in his t-shirt all morning long. And I was, for the record, I was a ninja because I walked right past that doe and she never woke up, nor I didn't know she was there.
So yeah, I don't know. It's probably 9:30 or so. With my little gully that I'm covering, I see 4 does coming through. There's 3 nice freezer queens, and then there's a yearling tagging along with them. So I'm getting all excited. They look like they're walking my way, but they're not quite coming up the hill, not quite in range. So they're starting to work their way away from me. I have a grunt call, so I gave a little hit of that, and they did not like that. So one of them wheezed right away, and then they bolted out of there, ran away, 100 yards or so before I saw them walk. So I was like, all right, well, crap, excitement's over. And then I'm basically on top of the ridge. So on the other side of the ridge estate, I hear like some brush crackling. I think I was like texting you, like, crap, I just did this, didn't work. So I put my phone away, and then here comes this bruiser coming right to me, probably 25, 30 yards. I got tac cam footage of it, but aimed for his shoulder. I shot. The bow's loud as heck. But you can see through the footage that I hit him. He flinched and curled down. So it looks like I whacked his shoulder. The arrow got no penetration. Arrow broke off right away. No blood. But so shot, like, I'm calling everybody. I'm all excited.
I was freaking excited.
All the emotions are coming through me. I think Ronnie wanted to come right over then and track it. I'm like, let's give it a while. I called my buddy, when in doubt, back out. So I'm thinking we could just give this deer a little bit longer to make sure, since he's a dandy. So I think we ended up waiting about 2 hours. I told you, I think I texted you like 2 o'clock, like, I'll be ready. And it was like 1:45 when you showed up at my stand.
Yeah. Well, you had texted me. I don't know the order that it had happened, but we were texting back and forth, and it was cold that morning. So I got out of my tree stand from where I was hunting, and I went over on the other side of the ridge where the wind wasn't blowing, and I was sort of sunbathing on the side of the mountain where the sun was hitting in the morning. And the next thing you know, we were texting back and forth, and my phone's vibrating. I thought you butt dialed me, and you said you got a shot on a big one, and I was pumped, man. I mean, because it was like our first real day of hunting, and I was juiced, man. I was just excited for you.
Yeah, so then you rolled around the ridge. We looked, and it was, disappointing. It is what it is, but it's good to know that that buck's going to make it to the next year.
Yeah, I mean the footage shows like you hit him right in the shoulder.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy because there's a tuft of hair, but no blood at all, and yeah, that he's definitely gonna live.
All I'm thinking is get the gun.
Yeah, get the gun. Gun would have done a different trick on him, but those old several-year-old deer, they're tough, man.
Yep. So I ended up the next day looking a little bit more. I did a big horseshoe around the gully, and no blood at all. But so that was the end of that. I think you were working your way back, and I was still pumped. So I wanted to show Dad the broken arrow. I wanted to show him the footage, see what he thought, if we should pursue further. So I'm kind of walking down the trail. I'm at the turn right where his starts, and I'm texting him. I'm like, first off, I'm short on arrows, and he brought my backup up. So I was like, all right, I'm going to come get this arrow. Can I come see you? And then after a while, I was like, you know what? He knows I got this arrow. I don't think it's going to interrupt too much of his hunt. But I got right to that bend, and he's like, tell me he's got this deer bedded down 40 yards away. So I freeze in my place. I stop. And even texting you. You're probably having a jolly good time skipping on top of the mountain.
I was walking the ridge of the mountain back to where my tree stand was, and I found out that Lon was sitting in his t-shirt trying to have a stare down with this doe, freezing. And I thought to myself, I had to walk, within 45 yards of where that deer was bedded down, and I didn't know she was there.
Ninja.
But you do your best to try to be quiet when you're moving through the woods, and obviously I didn't spook it. So Lon, all right, that was a rabbit trail, but back to your story.
Okay, well, what's the moral of does and grunt calls when the rut's happening?
Lessons learned. There's always a lesson learned, right?
Don't do it unless there's a buck around.
Don't grunt at the does.
Does don't respond to the grunts the same way that bucks will.
So anyhow, she was a mature freezer queen because the wind was blowing up the hill, and a lot of times deer will bed down that the wind's blowing to them so they can sense danger. She wasn't concerned about that one little bit. She bedded down that she could see whatever was coming from where her scent was getting blown.
Mm-hmm.
And she laid there for about 3.5 hours. And then the wind shifted because we had a cold front that was coming in the next day. Well, she got up and went to the bathroom and turned around, and the same thing. Started watching where her scent was getting blown.
It's interesting how the doe changed their behavior during rut
Versus, normal. But I had no plans of shooting her till I froze for 5.5 hours. And she got up and took 20 minutes to cover 15 yards to get into one of my shooting lanes. Had to take one step, and instead of taking that step, she took 2 steps backwards, ate some more acorns, and then dropped down 4 feet to another skitter trail that runs right below the trail below my stand. On the first trail that's by my stand, I've got 3 spots where I can shoot on that I got the yardage over 20 years. I got it figured out. Well, she dropped down to this second trail. It's probably only 5 yards more.
Mm-hmm.
And it was starting to get towards dark. Plenty of light yet, but she was down there, and I adjusted for the 5 yards, and let it rip, whacked her, and she turned, took off running downhill. Everything looked good. Got out of my stand, couldn't find my arrow. Shooting downhill pretty steep. That's probably down at our tree stands towards the bottom, the foot of the mountain. We'll find it some year. But got down, and there was some blood about her second bound. Had good blood coming off the top of the mountain. We got down to the flat where the leaves were about 8 to 10 inches deep. Still decent blood, but you had to really look for it.
Yeah, you said you had a real good blood trail going down to just about till she hit the road.
No, I had an awesome blood trail. You could follow it faster than you could walk because of the leaves and the stones and rocks and everything we have here. Then she hit the dirt road that comes up to the cab, and she started walking it, and then it got down to drips. And eventually we lost it. The next morning we went out to look some more, and traveled it another 60, 70 yards. Started raining, we lost it. Anything I can think with the steep angle and stuff, I might have got just one lung. She never laid down or stopped, and
she kept on going.
One that got away.
I went out because you went after we went out the day after and trailed her until we got caught in a rainstorm, which basically ruined that little bit of blood that we had left over. I went out the next day and spent a couple hours just trying to pick up any sign of where she might have went. Spent a lot of time tracking this week, but yeah, so that's the one that got away. So what about the doe that didn't get away?
So, a few days later,
we're not going in chronological order here. We had a lot of deer seeing and shooting going on, but yeah.
Yeah, a few days later, I'm up at my stand. I relocated about closer where I saw those does came through because I'm like, well, that buck, he ain't gonna come back the same trail. So I moved down.
And you're hunting the same section of woods.
Yep.
But just for those listening, he's moving his climber stand, trying to find that sweet spot. So he's in the same part of timber, but he's moving locations from day to day.
So I stayed there till about 12. Then Mom was texting about how cold it was and wind. So I was like, dang, if he's texting about that, like, I'm doing pretty good because, yeah, it was chilly. So then I was like, all right, like, screw this. If he's cold, I'm not going to be cold. So I shimmied down the tree. I went over to the other side of the mountain where it was rainbows and sunshine. There was no wind. We had say it was a northeast wind blowing in, and the mountain just kind of blocks it from that side. So it was just sunshine over there. It was kind of hot. But I walked down to where I previously was before. I checked my Onyx, and I realized if I go down a little bit further is where this trail kind of kicks in. So I walked down, got set up, and not even 5 minutes later, you would have thought this deer was stalking me. It's following my trail. Looked like he was walking downhill, and it kept getting closer and closer. And if it was in my range, then I let her have it, and she went 30 yards down the mountain. It sucked dragging it back up, but then I hunted the rest of the evening and got her taken care of, and she's hanging with me pole now.
Any deer we kill on the back side of the hill, like that's the trade-off for getting out of the wind.
Yeah, but it was nice as like a redemption, considering that buck, the bad taste left in my mouth. So it was nice to squeeze the trigger in the crossbow and to see this deer go down and see good blood and everything that should happen did happen.
So I guess, been up here the last 3 weeks. 2 weeks ago, I had a doe come through, and that was the first blood on the hill. We got a little bit of meat in the freezer. This week, I had a really, really nice buck come in to me the one evening, sitting up in a tree stand that I was hunting in, and he was probably one of the three amigos we've been watching, and I couldn't believe this deer was going to walk right under my tree. So I put my 30-yard pin on it, and it kept on walking, like directly at me. Got to be within, I don't know, 25 yards to 20 yards, and I had to switch pins from a 30-yard pin to a 15, 25-yard pin. And stepped into an opening, and I took the shot. The deer turned around. It ran probably 50 yards. Didn't act like I hit it or anything. Ran 50 yards and stopped. Didn't know what had happened. And I'm in my tree stand with a crossbow. So I'm trying to pull this string back and recock the bow with my bare hands, not using the rope that we usually use to pull it back. And I did that, and it clicked. And that buck just snorted one time and then took off. And I thought, man, as close as that was, there was no way it was a bad hit. But that deer did not act like I hit it very good. So I gave it like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes cleared out, and I got down out of the stand and I went over the 20 yards to where it was, and I had blood. So I'd say that was probably like 3:15 in the afternoon, and it gets dark here around 6 p.m. So like Brady called me earlier this week when he had shot at a nice buck. I called him. And I said, "Hey, I got one hit." But he wasn't too far from me. I didn't want to mess his hunting up, so I did my best to restrain myself and sit still. And so, long story short, I sat until dark. I trailed it for 25, 30 yards, 50 yards over to where it stopped. And from that deer we had previously killed, where the gut pile was laying, we had a crossover. And I lost blood because there was leaves with old blood versus the new blood trail. And I was really frustrated. So it was too dark, and we were going to give them time, so we backed out and went back down and into camp after dark. I didn't trail it too much at night, but when I was walking on my way down to the cabin on one of the trails we walk to get down off of the mountain, apparently that deer ran across that trail, and I picked up fresh blood again, and it was like a miracle from Christmas. So I was really excited. I didn't track it that night. I had it benchmarked where it was, and I was going to go out the next day and do some tracking on it. And I did. I tracked that deer all day long and had good, not super blood on it. We went back to review the footage, and the Tacticam battery died. And so essentially, we got video of me taking the bow off of the hook, hanging in the tree, but no video of the deer coming in. So I don't know exactly where I hit it. I think I hit it probably low in the front left leg. Tracked it for over a mile, and then, like Houdini, the blood just stopped. So I'm still holding out hope that I can go out and try to locate that deer. But that was one night, and then I had another evening that I was up at the stand, and I had a smaller buck come into me, and that buck didn't have quite as good a luck. So I did punch my tag on that buck, and a little 6 point came in. Tried to started angling coming in front of my stand, and it stopped. And I didn't have really good shooting on my right hand side, and it started to walk back my right hand side to walk behind my tree. It knew something wasn't right, and he was hiding behind these mature timbers, and he just needed to take one step out. And as soon as he did, I punched an arrow through him, and we dropped him. And so we did get meat on the pole, but we got some that got away, and we just weren't able to recover this week. And it happens. It's probably one of the worst feelings when it comes to hunting is when you take a life. We harvest the animal, and it's really important that we use the meat. And what we don't use, we give away. We make sure it goes to good use. But when we have an animal that we wound or gets away that has potential of dying, that really messes with you.
Sucks.
It does. So we've been seeing deer this week. We've killed a few deer, and we got a few deer that we got shots at and just haven't recovered. One other thing that I'd say, a couple other cool things that happened this weekend is we were out trailing that doe of Lon's, and before the rain came, I'm on this blood trail like a hound dog for him, and I look up and I see these antlers, sticking up out of the brush, out of the leaves. Found a nice dead head. I don't know, it's like a 9 point, maybe could have been a 10 point. One of the antlers completely chewed off, so probably from last year. And so we brought that back as a souvenir to camp. And then just tonight, I was sitting in my tree stand and I had to go to the bathroom so bad. And so I'm just fighting my bladder. And so I stand up to sort of rearrange myself. I was thinking about getting down out of the stand to go relieve myself. And I look over and I see this body moving. And we've got coyotes up here. We've seen a lot of coyotes last week. But I thought, is that a coyote? Because it was kind of low to the ground. It wasn't big enough to be a deer. And turns out it was a bobcat. But this is the biggest bobcat I've ever seen in my life. It's probably the size of my dog at home. So I got the camera out and I just started filming it. And it was walking up the ridge, and it came down and circled around my tree stand. Probably smelled all the blood from all the deer slaying we've been doing up there out of that tree. It came down, and I'd say 15 yards, 20 yards from my stand. I got really cool videos, so we'll get that posted and share that. But so yeah, a couple of really interesting stories. It's been ups and downs and everything in between. But Brady, from your perspective, what are the keys to success? Because we've had a couple of good luck charms this week.
Being out in the woods, gotta sit still, gotta be there. Good luck charms is I took my gasoline covered winter hat with me. The scent killed on that, so that was good luck. It's good luck when Lon is on his way to camp, but he's not quite here.
Every time he's driving up here, we're seeing and shooting deer.
Work sucks.
And we found out that watching a good John Wayne movie for the next evening's hunt is good for luck. As when we had all our action on Wednesday. Yesterday, we watched a movie, had some action today. I'm not counting the one 2 days ago because I fell asleep right away because I was so tired.
We watch John Wayne movies every night that we watch the John Wayne or a Western. The following day, we got some action. So we've been watching John Wayne all week, and we've been rewatching some of them, even though a few of us have fallen asleep.
Yeah, you talked about your superstitions with the Thor hat, and I said I really didn't have one, but now I might start to have one with John Wayne movies.
Hey, whatever works. If it works, we don't change it.
Right.
So, any lessons learned from you, Lon, before we sign off?
I can't let you two up here by yourselves because I got to go home for work, miss a day, and then come back again because you guys don't know how to act when I'm gone.
He did give us hell for not keeping his beer cold in the freezer.
Yeah, all the training.
We got ice cold water in this cooler. It's the last day of camp. I mean, the sodas and the drinks are really cold, but there's no ice.
The mountains are blue.
Yeah, the mountains are blue on the
The
course.
mountain is blue. The mountains ain't blue.
You just have to hang out with us at camp more, I guess, buddy. Can't leave us alone.
Got that figured out already.
All right. Well, that's probably it. We're going to be signing off. We'll be back in a few weeks here at the end of the month. I mean, we're going to wrap up archery season. There's a couple more days, but I don't think I'm going to be doing a whole lot of archery season the remainder of this year. Got some butchering to do the rest of this weekend, and then it's back to work for me. But we'll be back up in rifle season. Hopefully we can make a couple more memories and see what comes of it. We'll get some stuff posted. You can check us out, Tracks and Tackle, on Instagram, or Mentzer Outdoors on YouTube, and you can find us there on Instagram as well. And maybe after rifle season, when everything settles down, we can do an episode where we go to the mailbag and answer some questions, because I've had a couple of people asking us questions and haven't really had time. We've been hunting so hard this month and last. Maybe we can sit down and make some time to do that. So, all right, guys, we're going to sign off, and it's been a long day. We've been getting up about 4 in the morning and going to bed probably later than we should. So, I'm going to try to catch up with some sleep tonight, and we've got one more day hunting tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Peace.